Welcome back. You're watching NewsX. My name is Vineet Malhotra. Well, 4 members of a Hindu family have been found dead under suspicious circumstances inside their locked home in Rangpur, Bangladesh. The victims have been identified as 65-year-old retired school teacher Ganpati Chakrabarti, his wife Preeti Lata, their 23-year-old daughter Agami, and their 12-year-old son Priyam. Their bodies were recovered from different parts of the house late Saturday night. Police say the family may have been killed after 2 young men allegedly entered the rooftop to consume yaba. According to investigators, Ganpati confronted them after hearing some noises, following which he was allegedly strangled. His wife, daughter and son were then also killed. 2 cousins identified as Mugdo Das and Siddhartha Das have been detained in connection with the case. Police say their identities were established through a joint investigation involving the Rangpur Metropolitan Police, CID and Detective Branch. However, the circumstances remain under investigation, with relatives alleging that the deaths were planned murder. Police are examining multiple possible motives, including robbery. All right, let's talk about this with our guest. Joining us on the platform is Ambassador Sushil Singhal, former diplomat, Major General Dhruv Katoch, defense and geopolitical expert, Dr. Swati Jindal Garg, Advocate Supreme Court, also joins us on the show. General Katoch, I'll begin with you. So, considering the kind of extreme behavior we have seen in Bangladesh, which also kind of is peripheral to Hindu hatred, do you think this could also be a part of that same ideological resistance that Bangladesh has seen in the last few months against India?
Thank you, Vineet. Vineet, I've been through this. It is a gruesome murder. Let's face it. And but how it happened, who were the perpetrators? That, of course, we have come to know. But leaving that aside, the very fact is that a Hindu family has been killed. And when I'm seeing the trends over the last 2 years, especially when after Sheikh Hasina was deposed, there has been a trend towards targeting Hindu families. And when the elections were held this time and the BNP came into power and Tariq Rahman is now the Prime Minister, the reports which I get from my friends in Bangladesh is that there is no let-up in that hatred towards the Hindu community. That is the bottom point. There are no murders per se being committed that way, but the entire community is living in fear. They fear for their property, they fear for their the honor of their daughters. Anything can happen at that point of time. And behind the BNP is the Jamaat. Now, unfortunately, what has happened in Bangladesh is we have got 2 political parties, the BNP and the Awami League. When the Awami League was in power, they had thrown out they didn't allow the BNP to function. And now the BNP has come into power and the Awami League is blacklisted. The opposition there is the Jamaat. But the Jamaat is really working hand in hand with the BNP. And because they are working hand in hand with the BNP, and it is, it is background support, so to say. The reports which I get is that the agenda of the Jamaat is being implemented by the BNP, and that is the worrisome factor. And the Hindus are an easy target. So every time when something happens, if there's a split in the India-Bangladesh relationship, the first thing they will do is they will target the Hindu community. Unfortunately, even during Sheikh Hasina's time, the Hindu community was being targeted, albeit on a lesser scale. So this is not something which is new. It has been carrying out now for decades. And I think the Indian response has been very muted all these years, possibly because we were building up that relationship and rapport with Sheikh Hasina. But ultimately, I think this needs to be addressed head on. Bangladesh is a radicalized Muslim country. And if we don't accept that fact, that they are a radicalized Muslim country, I think we will continue to run into trouble. So how the situation is to be dealt with, that we will see. But the first step on dealing with it is acknowledging that a situation exists. For too long, we have closed our eyes to the danger which is present. While the present case may not be a murder committed by the Muslim community against the Hindu community, so it may not be, the religious angle may not be there, but otherwise, generally, in Bangladesh, that religious motive is very strong, and I think it needs to be addressed. Vineet.
Ambassador Singhal, so what have you identified as the problems that still stick around for the Hindu community in Bangladesh?
Well, Vineet, the problems of Hindu community in Bangladesh are multi-fold, I would say, because number one, there is an economic factor. This is the fact that most of the Indian Hindu community there is affluent for historical reasons. They are the landowners, and which the Muslims, they always used to eye that their properties. It is a fact. It has happened in all regimes, whichever regime is there, because this is an economic factor. Because land is very scarce. Is one of the highest density population there. And since the Sheikh Hasina was removed, after that we know that there was number of incidents because there was a tacit, I would say, support of their interim government, and Jamaat Islam was an important component of that. So that continues, and still it is no. Of course, the BNP is claiming that they are not supporting, they are investigating, and they want to put a stop. But the fact remains that these kind of incidents keep happening and on a regular basis. So claiming that they're not it's a fact of life, and the population, at the time of independence, the number of people or the percentage of the Hindu population was much higher than what it is to be there, which clearly shows that there is a persecution of Hindus there, whether anybody admits that or not. Because otherwise, numbers, the way dramatically declining the percentage and absolute number, clear is very clear indication that they are being persecuted, and they are ensuring that Hindus leave Bangladesh. That's a fact. Now, coming to this case, it is very intriguing. In one day, they are able to identify, and now they're checking their DNA of these two gentlemen, to these culprits, and but the families has raised, the suspicion when they say that when the construction of the house was going on, there was demand for construction. People wanted money for it, and which happens in Bangladesh regular basis. I've served there, so I'm sort of aware of that, how things happen out there. And when it is saying that the two boys are able to, overpower four people and a different location just because they were objective, and I find it very difficult to accept that when a family is living, these the boys find only that house to consume, these drugs in the house, and they climb the roof. It's not logical. Normally when somebody wants to consume drugs, they will like go to a secluded place. There are enough places available in the village. So I mean, of course, the investigation will be done, and we will know what happened. But sound bit suspicious to me at this moment. Of course, I'll reserve my judgment, but I have my doubts. But I think the government of India has raised a number of times the problem of these Hindus' persecution in Bangladesh, and the government, of course, has always been claiming that it's not happening. But I think we need to continue to raise this issue with the authorities in Bangladesh. Thank you.
Dr. Swati Jindal, the other concern always will be that, will these minorities in countries like Bangladesh and Pakistan ever get the due course within the law or the establishment that they deserve? Are they going to get the treatment that they deserve? If they don't, then obviously it points to only one and only one thing.
Well, Vineet, I think the biggest problem that we face today is who decides what who deserves. Now, that is, if the minorities decide that this is what we deserve, well, if you look at the makeup of the population in Bangladesh, today Hindus now make up approximately 7 to 8% of Bangladesh's population, which is about 10 to 13 million people. Now, this during partition, mind you, was around 25%. So, One out of every four people used to be Hindus way back in 1947, and now we have only 8 out of 100. So that is a big, big downfall. Now, coming back to, if are these 8 out of 100 people deciding what they deserve? Or will it be the 92 that decide what they deserve? Now, I think there are more chances of the rest of the majority deciding what the minority deserves. And if you look at the surge in violence, there have been thousands of incidents of communal violence recorded just between last year and last year, 24, 26, and there have been lynchings, there have been temple demolitions. If you remember the case of that garment worker Deepu Chandra Das, it happened last year, and it was it gave people goosebumps. How he was beaten and burned by a mob. How do you punish a mob? How do you identify people? Are people even bothered about punishing that mob? Then we have that issue in Bangladesh where that 500-year-old temple in Nokhali was demolished. Then we had the suspension of the Ram statue project, and so many things. So the political climate as we see today, with the Jamaat re-entering the mainstream politics and pushing for Sharia-based constitutional reforms, I do not see, the country giving or doing anything for the Hindus in the near future, because Hindus today in Bangladesh are not only reporting land grabs, they're also reporting temple vandalism, they're reporting daily intimidation. And most often than not, when these Hindus go to the authorities, their complaints are genuinely dismissed as non communal disputes. So, where do the Hindus go today? How do they protect themselves? I mean, they are not even that large in number that they will take care of themselves. Because today, if you look at the legal and institutional challenges, there is definitely weak enforcement. The police investigations generally, they often stall. Perpetrators, they enjoy impunity. There are judicial delays like every other, mostly countries like, even India is suffering from them. And then, worst of all, if you look at the stance of the government, the interim administration today that we have, it is failing to protect minorities. I don't think that they even have the intent to do that. International pressure, if you see, well, MNST, International Human Rights Watch, they've urged Bangladesh to prosecute perpetrators, but is anything happening? Well, I don't see anything happening, and if it is, then well, we are not getting to know about it. So of course there is. I think the hope is very, very less from what I see from the current scenario today.
General Katoch, there's also been, this will he or won't he kind of a situation by Mr. Tariq Rahman, who was supposed to come to India. As long as the relationship between the two nations is also a little amorphous or vague, for the lack of a better word, sir, the citizens on either side will obviously have issues.
Vineet, yes, they will have issues. But before that, just a slight correction to what Swati ji said about the population of Bangladesh. I think it was a slip of the tongue. You spoke about 13 to 14 million. I think it is 17 to 18 crores.
No, I was talking about the Hindu population.
Achha, okay, that is the overall population of about 17 to 18 crores.
No, just the Hindu part, 7 to 8 crores.
So that's right. No, as far as this particular, as far as Tariq-e-Rahman is concerned, I have very serious reservations whether he'll come to India for the BRICS summit. And one of the things is that during a meeting with some of them, it came out that the invitation which had been given had been to the president of the BRICS and not to the Prime Minister of Bangladesh. And for some reason, they have taken offense to that, though that is a protocol. I mean, these are minor issues, but I think they are very, very sensitive to the fact that Sheikh Hasina is in India and Tariq-e-Rahman, in their view, is not really being recognized as the Prime Minister of Bangladesh. It is not so, but there is a constituency in Bangladesh which feels in that manner. But the larger point is this, you see, the BNP has also been a radicalized party. And unless we address the root cause, the radical Islam within Bangladesh, it is not going to work. We can do whatever we wish to do, but the question is, it is a radicalized society. And when we talk of the rule of law goes against people who are not Muslims. And that is the problem. We see the same thing in Pakistan, where a young girl is possibly abducted, married off to a 60 to 70-year-old man, And then when she's taken to the court, the judge says, okay, now that they're married, let them remain. And you have the Hindu families weeping there, helpless. And this is what I'm saying. You see, the question is India has to do something. And if we, at least we must raise our voice, if not in the government, at least in the media, that what they are doing is wrong. And which is why there are a few things which I have been propagating. One is we should never ever have any treaties with Bangladesh. It is not that we stop their water, but the question of Ganga water being, renegotiated, to my mind, is absurd. Teesta doesn't arise. No upper riparian has such treaties with the lower riparian, which India, the bleeding hearts, will call them in India, says, nahi, unko sab kuch de do, without asking anything in return. So I think the question has come, our relationship with Bangladesh has to be transactional. If they want to sleep in the lap of Pakistan and China, it is their privilege. But then there will be consequences from India. If they wish to do something in the Siliguri corridor, what is popularly called the chicken neck, and some of them keep making the threats, then I would like to remind all of them, and I'm making this statement for the first time, if the Siliguri corridor is the chicken's neck, Bangladesh is the chicken. So if you want to cut it off, we know who is going to get hurt. So you see, our policies need to change in times, in accordance with the geopolitical situation which is changing, and we cannot accept a power like Bangladesh throwing its weight around when it has no weight to throw, simply on the strength of its, the large Muslim population. And then again, the Bangladeshis which I have met, they said, no, you have to be more considerate in allowing the refugees to come in. I see no reason why we should allow any illegal Bangladeshi to be in India. It is their problem, it is not our problem. So they want to palm off their illegals to India, but they don't want to do anything to preserve the sanctity of the very small Hindu minority population there. So those are the things which I think we need to address. And the message which must go across to Bangladesh is, if you try to create those insurgent camps within Bangladesh to start violence again in India's northeast, then there will be consequences. Pakistan has paid those consequences. They will pay them too. So we want a friendly relationship. We want a happy relationship, but it has to be on equitable terms. It isn't that India gives and Bangladesh takes, and Bangladesh gives nothing in return. That is not the type of relationship we want. I think our relationship from henceforth should be transactional. That they behave, we behave, otherwise there are consequences. And unless that message goes across, I don't see any change in behavior coming out from the present establishment of the BNP in Bangladesh.
You're quite right, sir. Ambassador Singhal, do you think that just like the Americans, India also needs to throw its weight around and make this relationship that we have had with Bangladesh extremely transactional? Because they seem to be giving those vibes for a very long time and we have failed to catch it.
The thing is that, it's very easy to do that, to have a transactional relationship. But what I think we need to do is make sure that the message from us goes very clear to Bangladesh and the leadership that what are our red lines. Because sometimes there is a confusion on that. But becoming completely transactional with our neighbor, I don't think it will serve us in the long. But they have to understand, on this other side, they have to understand what are our red lines. And they need to know if they cross them, there will be some consequences for that. So I would like to keep the message in that manner, not completely transactional, because India ultimately has certain responsibility in the neighborhood because we are the largest economy and largest country. So for that, we carry certain responsibilities, like we have been helpful or doing things for them, for the neighborhood. So we have to keep doing that. We were successful. It's not that this policy has not borne fruit for us. It happened in Sri Lanka. It happened in Maldives. That we, public positioning and private discussions, they're two different things. So when we are talking in private, I think we convey the message which need to be conveyed. But in public, we don't go for that kind of a talk or discussions. And this policy, what I'm saying, advocating, has gone to us. So I think we need to keep that, but the messaging has to be very, very clear. Because if we have a keep the blurred line, that then becomes a bit problem, because the message which is going to the other side may not be taken that seriously sometimes. And so that is what is, I think, important in my. Thank you.
All right, Advocate Swati, any last thoughts, closing remarks from you? We've run out of time. We want to give you an opportunity to respond to what our panelists have said.
Our learned panelists have both of them have said things that are exactly on point. Both of them very learned in this area. I can see that. And as a parting thought, I would just say that charity always begins at home. So I think when we think about taking in influx of people who are going to create problems for us in our own country that is already over flooded with people, I think we should be very, very mindful of who we allow to come inside. Hindu community, if you look at today in Bangladesh, it is, I would say, at a crossroads. It's shrinking demographically, it is besieged socially, it is marginalized politically, and we see no way forward until and unless there is some legal accountability. And one of the only hope I see today is international advocacy and stronger minority protections, which will not come by themselves. Looking at the government in power today, we will have to, we have to follow the character and the stick approach. And I don't know if that doesn't work, I don't know what will.
All right, fair enough. Appreciate everybody who joined in and weighed in on this important debate. We'll take a short break now. Be right back.